Welcome back YouTube, my name's Gareth, this is Tech Check. Today we're back with another PC build, all centered around this Aqua 9 from Okinos. Now, like most people, either can't afford it or can't actually find them. We're actually going with a 4000 series graphics card because 50 series is too expensive. We've also got a 7950X3D. We've got 32 gigs worth of DDR5 at 6000 mega transfers. We've got this lovely ATX3 850 watt power supply from MSI. We've got some nice cable extensions. We've got the H150I Link from Corsair. We're chucking it on this X670E Hero from Asus. And we've also got the brand spanking new 9100 Pro Gen 5 NVMe drive from Samsung. All housed in this Aqua 9. It's going to look the part. I'm going to walk you through the whole process and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Without further ado, let's do it. Let's get rid of all the things that we don't need at the minute. This is a beast. So I'm quite excited to build this particular PC, guys, because it's not going to need any of them 5000 series graphics cards, X670 chipsets, or should we say the 9000 series CPUs either. So this is a PC that you could actually go out and you could actually purchase and you can buy today. And in all honesty, you're probably looking at around about 20% less performance overall for CPU graphics card than what you would do with the latest chipset, latest graphics card, latest CPU. With that being said, you're probably going to pay around about 40–50% more in terms of cost. So is that 20% actually worth it? Then you've got all the other issues with the power and everything else. So look, for me, I want to build PCs that people want to use, they can afford and are ready available. And all of these parts you can go out and buy today. So with that being said, let's get everything that we're going to require in front of us, get rid of everything else so that you've got enough room, you've got plenty of light, and you can take your time, because that's the most important thing. Let's get a motherboard out on top of the box. Woohoo! So this is an absolute beautiful board. It's the exact same board as what I've got in my PC up there. Fantastic. Anyone that's looking to upgrade to X870, you really do need to look at, do you need to actually buy an X870, or can you get away with getting everything that you want on an X670 platform? And for me, there's absolutely no reason for me upgrading. The only particular reason there would be is for Wi-Fi 7. And in all honesty, I use my Ethernet connector. So in all honesty, I wouldn't benefit at all from upgrading from X670 to X870. I've got Gen 5 from my PCIe slot. I've got 2 Gen 5 NVMe slots. I've got plenty of connectivity on this particular board. And in all honesty, it's not worth it. There's far cheaper boards that you can get than this particular one, but I think this will go quite nicely in that case. And I wanted to show off that case really nicely as well. So let's crack on. First one up is our CPU. So this is a 7950X3D, don't need to buy that. You could, if you're just gaming, you could get away with a 7700, a 7800X3D, far cheaper than a 7950X3D. But let's get this out, let's get it installed. So before we go ahead and install our CPU, whether this is a 7800, a 7900, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to use one of these contact brackets. These particular brackets are more so aimed at the likes of Intel chips because of the bowing of the IHS and things like that. But whenever I've got a high core count CPU, I want to make sure that I've got the flattest possible surface, and I want to make sure that I'm using one of these contact brackets. They're about €9, £9, something like that. I'll leave a link down in the description. And likewise, for everything that we're using today, that'll also be linked down below in the description. But what we need to do is we need to remove our current mounting mechanism from our motherboard, and we're going to actually install this, or at least get it ready for when we put in our CPU. So first thing we're going to do is undo both screws. That will then allow us to take off these current mounting brackets. And we can just remove them. We'll do the same for these. Lift that one out. This one's a little bit tricky because we actually need an Allen key. And this Allen key is specifically designed for these 4 bolts. We've got 1 in each corner. We can go ahead and untighten each one of those. What's really important at this stage, guys, is what we don't want to do is drop any of these screws or drop our actual mechanism here into our socket. So I just want to get a firm grip, lift it up and remove it in total. And you'll see now we've got our exposed socket in place. What we want to do is we can take our CPU, carefully open this up, 7950X3D. We want to match the triangle that's in the top right hand corner with the triangle which is in this top right hand corner also. We want to gently lower it down into place and then we can drop it into our socket. Give it a little wiggle, make sure it's in. We can then place our contact frame over the top and you'll see that that just drops nicely over our CPU. And then we've got 4 screws and all we're going to do is put each one in each corner. But we're going to tighten each one of these screws back up in a crisscross pattern. So we've now successfully installed our contact frame. That's then going to keep that CPU really nicely put in place. So when we put some thermal paste on top of that IHS and we put our cooler or our all-in-one, it will fit and sit really nice and straight. There will be no bowing. We should get a much better contact, therefore better temperatures as well. Next up is our Trident Z Neo from Gskill. 2 32 gig sticks, so 64 gigabytes in total. This is at basically 6,000 megatransfers per second, CL30. Perfect for 7000 series CPUs. Let's get it out, let's get it installed. Because we've got 2 sticks, we want to be using DIMM slot A2 and B2, so that's slot 2 and slot 4. All we've got to do is line up this little notch here with this center pin, which is here. We'll slot one side in and then the other side in. Firm pressure on either side until you hear a click. 2 nice clicks. And we'll do the same for the second one. That's our RAM nicely installed. Just before we actually install this, as I'm sure many of you know, I'm a massive Samsung fan, especially when it comes down to their NVMe's and storage options. This is Samsung's brand new release. It was released 1 week ago. Samsung did send it out for review and we are going to be doing a full in-depth video in the next couple of weeks on this particular drive here. But with that being said, this is their first PCIe Gen 5 x4 NVMe, and guys, it is blisteringly quick. 14,700 megabytes a second, comes in 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, and in Q3 they've even got an 8 terabyte version, which sets them apart from their competition. With the efficiency improvements, with the speed improvements over their 990 Pro, I've always been a big fan of. This is one of the go-to drives. It's going to fit in PlayStation 5s. It comes with a heatsink. It also comes with no heatsinks as well. But I'm really excited to have this in that top slot, seeing how quick it actually is. Let's get it installed. Because this is a Gen 5 drive, we want to be making sure it goes on our top slot. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to remove these 2 screws, which will allow us to remove our heatsink. We can take this off. We can go ahead and install our drive. Put it in at a 20-degree angle, push forward, and then all we've got to do is push it down and then lock it into place with that quick connect there. And then we can go ahead and replace our heat shield. And there we have it, guys, starting to come together. We've got our contact frame and our 7950X3D nicely installed. We've got our 64 gigs worth of DDR5 RAM installed in the correct slots. Then we've got our blisteringly fast Samsung 9100 Pro installed on our top Gen 5 NVMe slot. Let's go ahead, start preparing the case so we can install our motherboard. So onto the case, guys, and this case I was really excited about because in the review I couldn't really find things that I didn't actually like. Quality top notch, loads of compatibility, and in all honesty looks like it's going to be a breeze to build in. And the best bit, $105. Don't think you can go wrong with a case that comes with 5 included fans, 4 of which are reverse fan blades, a controller inbuilt, 270 degrees worth of views on this particular case. And yeah, a little bit of RGB as well. So let's get our motherboard installed. So you'll see that I've already took off this glass side panel so we don't get loads of reflections. But just to take off this front panel, it's all toolless. We just push forward and then we can slide it out. It's the exact same for the side panel and the rear panel as well. We're just going to remove this drive cage at the back. This cage allows us to fit two 2.5-inch drives or one 3.5-inch drive here. Dead straightforward. Take out the 4 screws, push forward, and then you can just slide that out. And there we have it, guys, in the space of about 30 seconds, because you don't need any tools except for this back bit here. Everything now has got a nice, clear, easy path. Again, magnetic filters top and bottom as well. So I think it's an absolutely fantastic case. We're going to keep all of the fans installed in this case, included at the minute. And we're just going to be putting our motherboard in and then a 360 all-in-one. We've got 1 intake fan at the bottom, 3 intake fans at the side, when we're going to have our all-in-one as an exhaust at the top. And then we've got this rear exhaust fan as well. So should have plenty of airflow. Well, it did in the review. So I'm hoping the temperatures are going to be bang on, and we'll do some tests and I'll put them on screen at the end of this particular video as well, just to give you an indication, because that's not something that I did in the review. Right, enough wobbling. Let's get this particular motherboard installed. This is where you're going to grab your little box of goodies from Okinos. Make sure that you get all your case screws out of here. There we have it now. We've got all of our screws into different piles. We've got a couple of different clips just in case any actually break on the case. We've got a couple of our vertical mounting screws or standoffs, so that this case allows you to be able to change it from horizontal mounting for our GPU to vertically mounting, and it comes with 2 standoffs there. We also have an actual standoff screw there. We've got 3 more of the standoffs. We've got 6 PSU screws. We've got some SSD and hardware screws. And then these smaller ones are what we're going to require for the actual installation of our motherboard. They've got really nice flat heads on them, and it makes really good contact with the grounding pins, making sure we don't get any shorts. Because this case can support anything from an ITX motherboard all the way up to an E80X motherboard, then all the standoffs are already in the standard configuration for ATX. What we're going to do is we're just going to nicely drop in our motherboard onto the standoffs, just taking your time, making sure that you don't drag it along them, damaging your motherboard. Once you've got that in place, we're going to take 9 of these screws. We're going to work in rows of 3, so 3 at the bottom, 3 down the center, and 3 at the top. It's a really good thing, guys, to get yourself a magnetic screwdriver here. Saves a lot of time, hassle and problems, especially if you drop a screw down here somewhere. It's a nightmare. So don't over tighten these screws, because there's no actually need to actually do that. You just want to make sure that you've got a firm grip, and that's more than enough. Guys, there we have it. We've got our motherboard nicely installed. What we're going to do now is we're going to move on to our all-in-one. As I mentioned before, we are going to be using the IQ Link H150I LCD. Now, it's going to look a little odd because I don't have the Okinos all-in-one to put up there. But I thought, why not? If this one's going to be obviously a bit of a problem, then I'd rather know now, and you guys can find out as well. But what I thought about doing was putting this all-in-one, installing that, and then potentially putting the rest of the IQ system in this particular case as well, because I've got a feeling it's going to look absolutely fantastic. That being said, let's get our IQ Link installed. I personally think that this is one of the easiest installations of all-in-ones, in all honesty, guys. We have these 4 little standoffs which are here, okay? We have a thick side and we have a thin side. Now, it's very, very straightforward. The thumb screws will only screw onto the actual thin side. If you try and do it onto the thick side, they aren't going to actually screw on. Now that tells you that the thick side goes into these 4 corners of our socket. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to screw those in until they're thumb tight in each corner of our socket. That's all done for that particular bit. We'll move this to one side. Now we'll turn attention to our all-in-one. So the first thing that we want to be doing is we want to pick up our mounting brackets here, and these will only go on one way. There's a little indent here. If we try and put them on this side, it won't actually fit on. So that means they go on this side. The other one can go on the other side. We then can put our 4 large thumb screws to one side because we're going to need them in a second. And everything else, guys, is later on, literally later on. Now, you can do this a couple of ways. You can secure your radiator to the top of your case first, or you can secure your actual pump to your actual socket first. We've already chosen that we're going to have our tubes out this side. So we're going to slide that into our case, like so. Our radiator is located here, and all we're going to do is we're going to take all 12 of these screws with the washers on, and we're going to line up our radiator and put a couple of screws in, holding it in place. We don't want to tighten this down, because if we do, we will have no flexibility in terms of moving it. The last thing I want to mention here is we should be okay for room here. But if you didn't have lots of room up the top here and you've got rather the big hands, here would be a perfect opportunity to connect your 2 8-pin EPS connectors which power your CPU. So if you don't think that particular amount of room is enough, because you've only just put 2 screws in, you can take them out, you can get your power supply out, take out your EPS connectors and install those now. I believe that we've got enough room, or sufficient room, that I can put them in, bend it round and connect after we've got the installation of the actual radiator done. The reason why I've not tightened them down so far is because I've still got that degree of flexibility of deciding where I actually want my all-in-one. So I always like to have it centered. So let's have it just about there. I'll go ahead, tighten all these screws down. And now we've got 2 hands to actually work with. Get yourself some thermal paste. I'm just going to put a dollop right smack bang in the middle here. And all we're going to do is we're going to loop each one of these 4 holes over these standoffs, making sure that once we've got it on, you keep it nice and still. We then take all 4 of the thumb screws and just feed them on to each corner. Really important though, we don't tighten these down too much. Once you've got all 4 on, we can just turn it a little bit like that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to tighten them up in the same way we tightened up the others in a crisscross pattern. And there we have it. We've got our all-in-one nicely installed. So really straightforward, guys. I know we've got a little bit of a mess here with regards to these extra cables and so on and so forth, but we're going to walk you through that right now. Really important things to know. This IQ Link box has got 2 connections, one on this side and one on this side. It can power up to 14 different devices, but you can only do 7 on one side and 7 on the other. Connect the actual cables on the bottom down here. So the first one is our PCIe power cable. This is going to connect to our PCIe cable from our actual power supply. The next one is going to be our actual control. So this will control the IQ Link box to our motherboard. So it's just a USB connection, and that goes in down here. And then the very last one is this dodgy looking little 2-pin connector. And effectively what that's going to do is connect onto our CPU header on our motherboard, so that when you turn your computer on, you don't get that pesky little thing like CPU fan not connected. That's just going to be pushed into here. So we have our 3 fans which are on our radiator. We need to connect our fans to our actual radiator. So we've got a very small cable that's pumped into the side of this last fan here, and that's gone into one of these 2 connectors which are just here. You can see here we've got another connector which is left, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to put in this connector in here, and then that is going to go into our IQ Link box. But we're going to feed the cables through into the back, and then we'll connect it into there. The last connection that we need to make from our radiator is our USB-C connection, and that goes directly into there. This USB cable from the USB-C connects into a USB 2 header on our motherboard. Because the IQ Link box is magnetic, it fits perfect just there, giving us the perfect placement for our power connection, our USB 2 connection, and then we can feed our CPU connection all the way up to the top and click it onto our CPU fan header. We're going to then connect our long cable that's going from our radiator into our IQ Link box. We'll push our USB connection through to the front of the case, and we can start to push all of the relevant cables through the correct grommets here, or lack of grommets, but through the correct places so we can make the correct connections to our motherboard. The first one is our HD audio, always goes down this right hand side. Push that straight through. Next up is our USB 3, our 5 gigabit per second connection. Our USB-C, which is going through both of these, and then just above this one here, and then out this bit here. And then last but not least, our power switch, reset switch and LED buttons are going to go through the bottom just down here, and we're going to pull them all the way through as well. We can sort all the excesses out at the end. Now, important to note with this particular case, you've got this fan hub up the top which controls all 5 of these fans plus all the RGB as well. Now, we do have a SATA power connection that we need to run to this hub, and we can also control all of the PWM fans and the RGB via these 2 extensions here. We need to put this onto our system fan connection on our motherboard, and we also need to put this onto a 5-volt addressable connection to our motherboard, and that way we can control all of the lighting and have it all synced up together through the software of the motherboard. I think what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and make all of those connections, and then we know exactly what cables we've got left, what routing we're going to take, and then we can get our power supply installed. Let's start off with one of our biggest cables here. This is our USB 3 connection. It goes right into our USB 3 here. Push forward till you hear that lovely click, and again we can push the excess through to the back of the case. Next up, we've got our USB-C, and that goes into this connection here. And again, we can push the excess through to the back. We've got our 5-volt addressable connection, and you'll see that we've got a 4-pin connection here and a 3-pin connection here. All we need to do is make sure that we connect this onto our 3-pin header, push that nice and securely into place. Next up is our CPU fan connection, and that goes on to our grey one, which is just up here. Next up is our HD audio, and that always goes in this bottom left hand corner. Then we have our USB 2.0. That goes in any of these 3 USB 2 connections which are here. Then we have our fan controlling PWM connection, and that can go on to any of the system fan headers. And last but not least is our front panel power reset switch hard drive lights. That goes on to what's known as our JFP1 connection, which is down here. For this particular motherboard, I'll put a layout on the screen because these connections are very, very small. My big fat fingers, you're not going to see a great deal, but I'll show you where each cable actually goes via a layout on the actual screen. Because this case isn't the biggest, but it's not the smallest either, our long USB cable, which is our type C cable going from our radiator that needs to go onto a USB 2 connection, it isn't quite long enough for me to be able to get a really nice clean cable management job. Now the good thing is with the IQ Link, I don't need to worry about USB 2 connections because obviously I've got 3 on the motherboard, but I've got a little neat trick here is if you connect the actual USB 2 connection to one of these splitter cables that come with the IQ Link, you've just got yourself an extra 5 inches worth of cable, which might just take a little bit of pressure off you. And also, if you've only got 1 USB 2 or 2 USB 2 connections, then this will free up another one on your motherboard as well. So we're going to push that through and connect it to a USB 2 header. And then what we're going to do, guys, is we're just going to tidy a little bit of this up, make sure that everything's where it needs to be, and we're going to get the PSU nicely installed. Onto our power supply, and this is the MSI MPG A850G. It's an ATX3 and it's a PCIe 5.0 ready. It's not 3.1 or PCIe Gen 5.1 ready one. The only difference is obviously a little bit different in terms of power connectors. This has got the 12 volt high power connection, but the other one has got the 2x6 power connection, which is supposed to be a little bit more fault proof. Shorter pins, different coloured connectors, so it will probably stop a lot of consumer error on connections, but generally never had any problems with my A1000G. It's still in my system up there powering that 4090, and I've probably used the 1000 and this one 20 times over the last year without any hiccups or issues. So we're going to be using that in this particular system. As I said, it's got that high voltage power connection, so it should tidy some of the mess up. Let's get all of the cables out. Let's get it installed. Connections to our PSU. We've got our 24 pin that goes into our motherboard, and then we have these other two connections which we need to put into our actual power supply. So it goes on these top two slots up here. So one and the one next to it, firm connections. That's one of the things that we do need to make sure, because of how much power, not necessarily this system, but let's say you're using a 4090 or a 5080 or a 5090, those particular cables can pull up to 600 watts. So you just need to make sure that you're getting a firm connection. The next one up is our high voltage power cable. We have 12 pins, and then we have our 4 sense pins. Our high voltage connection is indicated via this 12 VH PWR connection down here. So all we need to make sure is that we line it up and get a really nice connection and make sure it goes all the way in and you get a little click. We have our SATA power connection. So this is a 6 pin, which is here. That can go into any of our SATA or Molex. And last but not least, guys, my motherboard does have 2 8-pin connections, but we're going to power it just via 1 8-pin. The reason for it is this particular power supply only comes with 1 EPS connection. It does say CPU on this side. The clip is double as big as the clip on this side. So we just want to put this into any of the ones that say CPU or PCIe. What we're going to do is we're going to take it one step further, because we've actually got some extension cables here, and I'm going to try and make this look as nice as possible. And these are from Easy DIY. I'll leave a link for those down in the description as well. So nice individually braided cables. Also come with a load of cable combs as well. I'm not going to bore you to death with those, very self-explanatory. I would ideally put them on one at a time until you've mastered how to do it, because the first time you put them on, they're always a pain and they kill your fingers. We're just going to connect our CPU connection onto our extension, and we can put some cable combs on there. Going to do exactly the same with our 24 pin. Last thing to note, we want to make sure our fan is facing downwards. We can go ahead and push this into the bottom of the actual case. Once you've got it in place, we can go ahead and tighten down the 4 screws, holding it securely down. A little tip here is don't tighten them all the way down until you get all 4 screws in, and it should help you align the holes as well. Now guys, just wanted to point out to you, you've just seen me side this power supply in from the actual side here. That's not an issue, you can do it that way. You've also got a bracket which is here as well, which you could just, if you wanted to, you could mount to the front of your power supply. You could push all your cables through to the back of the case, and then you could slide in your power supply just like that if you wanted to do it like that, and then you could just tighten down these particular thumb screws. Doesn't really matter which way you do it. If you've got a smaller power supply, it's a little bit easier just sliding it in from the side, in all honesty. But if you've got a larger power supply, then you can always put the face plate on, feed your cables through, and then tighten down those 2 thumb screws, holding it firmly in place. And I'd highly suggest, guys, if you are planning on taking this anywhere or moving it or transporting it everywhere, that those screws are all the way down. What we'll do now is we'll feed all of the cables to the relevant places, we'll make the connections, and then we're on to the best bit, which is the graphics card. Right, so onto the power connection. So I'm going to need power to my hub down here. So that is a SATA power connection. There we go. That's going to power our hub up there. Next thing we need to do is we need to power our IQ hub, which is here, which requires a 6-pin PCIe connector. We're now going to go ahead and connect our 8-pin EPS and our 24-pin for our motherboard. Our 24-pin is going into here. There we go. And we can push all the excess into the back. And the last one is our 8-pin EPS connector. Now, we have two 8-pins. Really, really important, guys, that you connect the one on the left, because that is the number one. If you're only connecting one, you need to make sure that you do the one on the left. Now's the perfect time to do a little bit of cable management so that it doesn't look such a mess. 2 minutes later, few things tied down. It's not too bad at all. Time for the graphics card. Let's do it. On to the most important and the most exciting part of any PC build, and that's the graphics card. This one specifically, the RTX4070Ti Super, 16 gig card from Zotac, guys. Fantastic card, runs really cool, great performance, and all in black. It's going to fit in perfect in this build. Let's get it out, let's get it installed. Line up my graphics card with my PCIe slot, and we're going to need slots 2 and slots 3 removing. So we can take slot 2, undo this screw, take out our bracket. Just make sure that your express bracket here doesn't fall and break into your, or fall onto your motherboard. There we go, that's that one and that's that one. We need to make sure that our express lane is open. We can line up our graphics card. Once you've got it lined up, firm press down, take our 2 screws, lock our graphics card back into place. Last but not least, we can go ahead and connect our high voltage power cable. All we need to make sure is that our sense pins are lined up. We can bend the connector around and make a firm connection. Once you've got it in, make sure it goes all the way in. There we go. And then that's not going anywhere at all. We can then cable manage our cable. And there we have it, guys, all completed. Every connection made correctly, all done as we would like it, and we just need to pray that everything's done as it should be, so when we come to test boot it in a second, everything turns on. Let's do that. God, I love it when a build comes together, especially when it was as easy to build in as what this one was. Now, I'm not going to put the glass panel on, guys, because you'll get loads of reflections all over the place with lights and everything else, but I am very, very happy, and I'm probably going to go back and edit the case review, because this was very, very nice to build in. There isn't anything that is a problem, in all honesty. The only thing that I'm a little, I wish they wouldn't have made it for back connect motherboards, because if there would have been grommets on this, it would have been a little bit better. But loads of room for the PSU down here. No issues with regards to the EPS cable when the radiator was in. There was plenty of room. Vertically mount or horizontally mount the graphics card. Yeah, I don't have any issues. The cable management at the back was really, really easy, straightforward, using the channels as we normally would do. Yeah, I really, really like this case, guys. It's not the biggest of cases, but it's not the smallest either. It's a mid-tower, obviously, but yeah, I think it takes lots of good features from lots of good cases and brings a lot of that together. So, okay, enough waffling. Let's get some power. Hopefully it boots. Hopefully. I'll see you in a second. Right, keyboard on, mouse on, power switch on. Oh, that's a good start. I like it when that happens. Right, good thing about this is all of the power buttons are down here as well. So let's hit this. Let's just make sure that we've got some power coming into our monitor. Yes, we have. Right, away we go, please. I love it when that happens. So we've got all of our fans which are lit up, guys. Obviously kicking out quite a lot of air at the minute. They are connected to a PWM, and the fans are also connected to a 5-volt addressable RGB connection to our motherboard as well. Now that won't kick in until we've actually gone through to Windows and we've synced everything up. But at this moment in time, it's just going through some memory tuning. You'll see the light up there just gone white. It needs to obviously tune the memory in order to make sure that we can hit post. There we go, green light. And there we go, we're straight through to the Asus screen. If we should be able to press F1, I believe. Yeah, and that should take us straight through to this particular BIOS here, which is fantastic news. It's always a little bit nerve-wracking whenever you've built your first PC, or any PC in that matter, because you need to make sure that you've took your time, every connection's obviously working, and there's nothing worse of spending 2, 3, 4, 5 hours building a PC and then you press that button and nothing works. It's an absolute nightmare. So biggest tips, enjoy it, take your time and reap the rewards after you've done the first two, because even though now we're through to the BIOS, it's really important that you don't think that you're going to hop, skip and jump straight into a game. You've got quite a lot of things to do. We need to make sure that you've updated your chipset, make sure that your BIOS is updated, make sure that you've downloaded all your drivers for Wi-Fi, for audio, for GeForce, for instance. A lot of people go ahead and they apply XMP, they sort all their fan curves out and all that kind of stuff. I don't like that, and I'm not a fan of that either. What I like to do is have the most stable system whilst installing Windows, okay? So the next step for me here is to leave everything as it is, not touch anything at all. What I would do is I'd press F10, I'd save, but before that I'd put a dongle in the back or a USB drive that's got a version of 10 or Windows 11 on it, and that will take us through the installation process. As and when that installation process is completed and we've updated all those drivers, chipsets, BIOSes, etc., etc., only then will I go back into the BIOS, apply XMP or AMD Expo, and then we can feel the full force of our own system. So I am really, really pleased, guys, with how this has come out. Not only does it look the part, but it's going to perform absolutely fantastic. 16 cores, 32 threads, 64 gigs worth of DDR5. We've got a 4070 Ti Super that's going to play most games at 4K at lower settings, and anything really at 1440p. The case itself, I've not got enough good words to say about it. It was an absolute pleasure to build in, really easy to build in. 5 included fans, and yeah, loads of compatibility. For those that want to vertically mount, you can do as well. For those that have got external SSDs or hard drives, you've got the mount at the back as well. Plenty of room for the PSUs. Really, really good airflow as well, guys. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts and feelings are on this case and these particular components. I've not used a 9000 series CPU or a 50 series graphics card, or even the latest X670 motherboard either, but that don't really matter. You're not going to be missing out on too much in terms of FPS with this particular system. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.